I'm a fertility doctor who had infertility. Here is my story. Hi friends, I am Dr. Natalie Crawford. I am a board certified OBGYN and REI. I am a fertility doctor. And today I just want to talk to you a little bit about my story, as today is the start of National Infertility Awareness Week, NIAW. National Infertility Awareness Week was founded by Resolve, which is our big organization that helps promote fertility awareness and outreach and resources for people suffering with infertility. Infertility impacts 1 out of 8 couples, and most of us think that number is actually closer to 1 out of 6. The prevalence rate for female physicians can be 1 out of 4. So that's me. I fit into that category. I didn't have a linear path to my job right now, meaning in medical school, I just loved clinical medicine. I liked taking care of patients. And so I liked it all. I knew I wanted to be a mom. Jason and I were already together, and I didn't have any good female mentors. So I was told, pick something that's lifestyle friendly. Pick something that has shift work where your patients don't need you when you're out of the office. And that's going to be a smarter path for you to be happy and find work-life balance. And I didn't have anybody telling me anything different. And so I picked emergency medicine and I matched into emergency medicine, which was really interesting. And I loved it. And I love the people. The people are so cool in ER. But I realized really quickly that that was not the right field for me. And so I left emergency medicine after a year. ER is normally a 3-year residency, and I, about 3 to 4 months into my first year, realized it was not the right choice. I told my program director, that's the person who is in charge of your residency, that I knew I had made a mistake. And the reason why is that I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to know what happened to my patients. Did I do the right thing? What was their diagnosis? And my peers and colleagues who were in the ER were so good about just taking care of whoever's in front of them. And I was really always wondering and curious about the people who I'd already taken care of. So I realized I needed some continuity. I need to be able to take care of patients and see them through a problem. That was something that I needed that I didn't know about. And so I switched into OBGYN, which during the course of this transition, I was able to do some rotations and I found I really, really, really loved women's health. And so I was able to reapply through the match, which was not fun, go on new interviews and match into OBGYN, which is hard to match into. And I was really fortunate to do so. And I was able to train at Parkland. That's where I did ER and I stayed for OBGYN. It is a great, crazy, largest training program ever. There's 20 residents a year. So there were 80 total of us and it was amazing. Great autonomy, a really good learning environment. However, it was hard. And I took what was going to be a 3-year residency and I completed my ER year because I didn't want to leave my co-residents behind and because I was transitioning to a surgical field. And then I started over in our OBGYN. So then I had 4 years. So I took my 3-year training and I added a couple extra years onto it. And then I realized really quickly that I'm super nerdy and I love the hormones and the reproductive system. And I really wanted to be that in person to see you through that problem, and that REI really fit all of those needs. And so I did a lot of research because REI is competitive and I was able to match into REI at UNC. Okay, well, matching into REI was like a dream. I'm so excited. However, that's 3 extra years. So I took my 3-year training program and I made it into 8. So when I was a medical student trying to decide what field to go into, I would sit there with my friends and think about how old I would be when I would be done and when would I start being able to have a family. Because there was this idea at the time, and there still is to some extent, that you can't have a family or be pregnant in residency. That you can't take maternity leave, and that's like leaving your co-fellows out, and that's not a good, healthy thing to do. So when I was doing the math, I just kept getting older and older. And I was watching my younger sister have kids, and I was watching my friends have kids. And so we decided to just try to start having a family towards the end of residency. Now, this was a different time. I mean, I'm old. So there was no egg freezing. I couldn't go see a fertility doctor and get an AMH blood test. Those weren't offerings. Nobody talked about fertility preservation. That was not something that was done. People weren't even doing genetic testing of embryos or saving embryos for the future. So infertility at that time was truly something You dealt with if you had it, and otherwise you just hoped for the best. So I didn't have any option except say, okay, well, even though I don't want to try for a kid in residency, I'm going to. Residency is a really stressful time. You're working shifts, you're working these crazy hours, more than 80 hours a week. And I had 3 miscarriages throughout my last year of residency. And they were at different stages of gestation. My most personally traumatic was a pregnancy that got further along, and then I started bleeding in the bathroom on the labor floor while I was chief resident. So I was managing, running the labor floor, deciding who needed a C-section, who needed Pitocin, and meanwhile, cramping and miscarrying and using pads and trying to take care of myself. And it really made me realize how much we put our own bodies and lives and goals on the back burner in the pursuit to be a physician. It was really eye opening for me. But that experience made me really disconnected for a while, and I really wasn't sure what to do. It was pretty rough, and I didn't tell anybody. I mean, none of my co-residents knew, none of my friends knew. I mean, obviously Jason knew, but nobody else knew. This was, you didn't tell people till you knew the pregnancy was good. That's what everybody said and did. So nobody knew I was suffering, and so nobody was able to help me. And I think that's one thing, if I could go back in time and change, or advice that I give to other people, would say, hey, tell your inner circle, tell somebody, let somebody help you, because people are generally good and you have people in your life who care about you, but they can't help you if you don't let them in. I then another pregnancy, we even bought our house in North Carolina, and I was currently pregnant, and I was so excited thinking about like which room would be the baby's room and envisioning, and miscarried that pregnancy then when we got home after the contract had been signed. So I felt like life was just not moving in this right direction. I kept getting set back. I was on this journey to be a fertility doctor, this thing I'd worked for and felt very passionate about, but I was struggling to have my own kids. When I got to fellowship, I kind of decided, all right, it'll be better in fellowship because I won't be as stressed, it'll be easier. Not really true. Fellowship is also very stressful. It is this intense learning curve, and that first year of fellowship is so hard. But I had an ectopic pregnancy in fellowship. So I found out I was pregnant at our fellows retreat where the first and the third year fellow go together. I felt terrible. I took a pregnancy test. My third year fellow was wonderful and so supportive. I told her, which thankfully I did, because I told her about my prior history. And then as this pregnancy, we decided to check HCG hormone levels to monitor how I was doing. And we were checking them. Initially, they looked awesome. And then I started having some spotting, and I knew that wasn't a good thing. And we went and checked, and my HCG had plateaued. And so we decided to follow it. It didn't go down. We did an ultrasound. And lo and behold, I had an ectopic pregnancy. I didn't have any risk factors to have an ectopic pregnancy. I was shocked by this information, and I had to make the decision to receive methotrexate. Jason wasn't even in town when I got diagnosed. He was at a bachelor party and had to fly home. And this ectopic pregnancy was really emotional. I mean, methotrexate is a chemotherapy agent. It's a folic acid antagonist, and it makes rapidly dividing cells stop dividing. So what happens is that it then terminates the pregnancy, but it causes a lot of pain, like your whole body doesn't like it. It's an intramuscular shot, and I always described it to patients like it felt like I got hit by a truck. So it was not fun. It was terrible. And so I felt like I got hit by a truck. I, recovered. I luckily had people in my life who I kind of told about it at this time. I mean, Jason had to fly home. My co-fellow knew. One of my fertility nurses gave the shot. And I suddenly got a lot more support along the way. I then had to wait the 3 months of getting, methotrexate. And I decided during this time I was going to try to control what I could and get really healthy and eat really clean and try to drop stress off. Underwent an evaluation for why I had the miscarriages. No reason known, no reason to have the ectopic pregnancy. And then, luckily with some fertility treatments, was able to conceive Campbell, who is our little miracle baby. I was nervous the whole pregnancy. I didn't tell anybody when I was pregnant with her. I didn't tell anybody until 20 weeks. I was terrified that something was going to go wrong. I was just waiting for it to go wrong. She ended up being growth restricted and being delivered early, which she was fine, but that was a terrifying experience. She's still really little, but she's doing great, small but mighty. And then naturally got pregnant with Rhett afterwards. So they're very close together. They're 15 months apart. And I relate to my patients who say, I don't know if I want to try to have another one. Like, I don't want to enter the fertility world again or feel that feeling. And I totally get it. I felt that same way. I mean, we always wanted to have two kids, but I wasn't sure if we were ready to start trying or how it would be when we felt pregnant with him. And I'm so fortunate that it was an easy process with him because I know that feeling of maybe we should just stop while we're ahead and not put ourselves back into that deficit, risk having the miscarriages. I was at that place where I was like, I'd rather not lose any more pregnancies. Maybe I'd rather not be pregnant. I'm from a family of three. My parents are from families of four. And we might have wanted a bigger family had it not been so hard to get pregnant with Campbell and then feel like Rhett was just such a fortunate circumstance. Um, but two is the perfect number for us. And so it's okay if your goals change. It is also okay to know that sometimes, you can have a hard time conceiving one and you can still get pregnant naturally with another. It's also okay if you never get pregnant naturally, if you miscarry pregnancies, if you have infertility. Getting help sooner versus later is always going to make things easier. And that's why your fertility doctors are here. When I had my own infertility, y'all, there was no like Instagram communities talking about fertility, and there were not YouTube videos about it. So I would go on forums, like literally forums, and read what other people said or what their fertility doctor said. And I was, as an OBGYN, searching for more information to try to help me. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about lifestyle and fertility and understanding how the things you put in your body make a difference, because truly that's what I believe partially helped me. And I want to help empower you guys with that because you can't control so much of this. You may not be able to control any of it, but you can control certain things about you and your life. And I think that those things matter. So thank you for listening to my story. This channel exists because I am passionate about educating all of you about your own fertility so that you have trusted and valid resources to find this information that I never had. I would love it if you would subscribe and stick around. You can always listen to the As a Woman podcast for more information or check out the Instagram at Natalie Crawford, MD. Thanks, friends. Mwah.